Devon.
Hello, my darling.
Episode 2.
Woo!
So, hi everyone. We opened our social media box to finally start receiving people's questions that we can answer every week.
Which was so fun. I was like quite eager.
Yeah, and I think it made us excited to answer them all.
Yeah, I was like a giddy goo.
Yeah, so we have picked our first topic for this week.
Love.
Which is to do with relationships, in specific, cheating. ... What is cheating? What's even cheating, Devon?
So I guess I'm trying to think like where to even like kick this off. I think there's so many different kinds of cheating. I think that the first step is like figuring out your attachment style and how your attachment style relates to how you see cheating.
Or how
if
you
we
cheat.
really had to like break it down.
Or how you cheat.
Yeah.
For sure. I think one thing about you and I, as to also why we're like besties, is that we're both very anxiously attached. So it's quite funny when we've had relationship issues, we'll go to each other.
Yeah.
And we'll get bad advice from each other because it's
crazy
I tell
attachment.
you to react in a way that I would react,
Yes.
which is not necessarily healthy or good.
Yes.
In fact, you know, in those moments, we should be asking someone who is a bit different that can see things in a different viewpoint. But alas.
The anxious attachment style is such a burden.
It's like
horrific.
Yes.
Like, I feel so anxiously attached that I will make myself physically sick.
Yes.
To the point where, like, I will walk, like, 20,000 steps. Like, not to digress, but when I was going through a breakup recently, I was so anxious that I, like, couldn't sit still, so I had to walk. And I was wearing this, like, a gorgeous nude-colored aloe set with, like, a nude sandal. And I was walking in Manhattan Beach where I was living, just, like, up and down, just, like, so anxious because it, like, overcomes your body. Like, you feel tingly. That neighbors called the police because they thought, like, a nude woman who was, like, unwell was roaming the streets because, like, the leggings looked nude. Like, I was naked. And when the police came out, I was like, oh, no, I'm actually just going through a breakup.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, we heard you were walking for 2 hours. And I was like, yes.
That's the most you story that I've ever heard. Like,
and I was wearing, like, a gorgeous Hermes brown nude sandal, and they thought I was barefoot. So it was so unhinged, but it's also, like, I'm making fun of it, but it is so crazy how your body and your nervous system, when you're anxiously attached, like, you can't really think of what you're experiencing because, like, you can't break it down as fact.
Yeah, the devil couldn't reach us, so he gave us anxious attachment styles. Which also, I mean, I have done so much work on my attachment style now, and like through therapy and through listening to podcasts and reading fucking books. Attached is a really good book.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how you derive those, because oftentimes, you know, they say it's to do with your childhood and the way that you were loved, and then thereafter it's to do with your life experiences. And every single thing that I think has been non-normative about the way in which I react to things or the way in which I relate to my like romantic partners hasn't really corroborated with things I went through in childhood. You know, I felt like I had a very secure attachment as a baby. My parents were, you know, I believe pretty perfect in the love that they gave me. But maybe that's also, I don't know, I was an only child. They did, you know, bring me up thinking I'm God's gift and that I'm the hottest shit on earth.
Yeah.
So when going into a relationship, if they don't treat you like that, you're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm God's gift. Like,
yeah.
I think you're similar.
I'm so similar. I grew up with a really weird family dynamic, and we had a super modern family. I think for me, I am so used to being so anxious in relationships that I would not even know what it was like to not be that way.
Yeah.
I also always date a very avoidant people. So I must put the salt in the wound, which we love to do.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot of research that talks about, you know, what happens when an anxiously attached person dates an avoidant. And some people say, you know, that's the worst. Others say, no, like, that's kind of the goal. And to get into the middle of secure attachment just means that you're growing. I have always been with avoidance, and sometimes it didn't work out. I think the relationship I'm in now, I wouldn't say that she's completely avoidant, but I definitely feel that she's definitely not anxious. And so through her not being anxious, I have grown so much into a secure place.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, those past relationships that didn't work out with certain avoidance did lead to either cheating from either parties.
Yeah.
But to kind of wrap up the anxious chat, which I think we should do like a whole episode on anxious attachment style.
100%.
We should get a therapist in.
Yeah, yes.
Let's get a therapist.
Done.
Let's get our viewers a therapist.
Let me bring my trauma
Maybe
therapist
I can call
in.
mine. She's quite good, although she's in New York. But what are some of the... I would say, obviously, when you think of cheating, you think of monogamy.
Yeah.
And I've always been a serial monogamous.
Is that a thing? A
Like,
monogamer?
That's
You're a
definitely
monogamist.
That's definitely the wrong word. But what I'm
Okay.
trying to say is I'm a relationship person.
Yes.
I have gone through relationship to relationship to relationship since I was 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I don't think it's the healthiest thing on earth. I think maybe there should have been times where I should have been single, but we're here now. And although I've always been in monogamous relationships, obviously as I've grown older, I have thought about, is monogamy even realistic? Like, is this a thing? Because we're the only species of animals that are monogamous.
Yeah. I think for me, monogamy is so fucking important, but I have been cheated on physically so many times.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm like,
am in a
here.
grave. If those experiences hadn't happened to me, like, it's shaped my like view on monogamy, where I'm like, it must be like this because I've experienced this like turmoil of physical cheating. But I think like if the cheating that like has happened to me was like emotional cheating or like there's different types of cheating, which I know we're going to talk about, but I think for me the physical cheating has like driven me to believe that like we must be monogamous because I crave it. But like if you actually look at it from like a 360, it's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be monogamous.
Yeah. I think ultimately, you know, nowadays all types of relationships are normalized. So I have friends in open relationships. I have friends who are literally getting married in open relationships. I have friends who, I mean, actually I don't have many friends who are polyamorous, but I certainly know of people who are polyamorous. And it does lead me to believe that perhaps these people have, I mean, they're definitely securely attached, let's face it.
They
because
are.
I don't think anyone who is anxiously attached should be in an open relationship.
I am the biggest jelly cat ever.
Yeah, same.
So I could never, like, when I would have threesomes, I would literally be giving my partner dagger eyes. And he'd be like, why were you doing that? That was not hot. And I'm like, because I was so jealous.
The trick with threesomes is being the outside person, being the person that comes into them.
Yeah, so I would thrive. You enter, you do your thing. I'm like,
exit, stage left. Yeah.
Remember me.
I've been that player.
Yes.
I've been
That is where I would shine. That is a great point. I've never had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
It's
it
how
would be
you
the stage I
safely
deserve.
survive. No, I'm joking. I'm sure there's many people out there who has amazing
For us
threesomes in
personally.
a couple dynamic. So monogamy is obviously the first thing you think about when it comes to cheating. And what I've come to realize and truly believe is that society has made it so it's the norm, obviously.
Yeah.
That's why when we get into a relationship, unless there's something that we specify saying I want an open relationship, we go into this with an expectation of monogamy. I don't think it's natural. Like, I think that we will go through life, and I think even if you are with someone for your whole life, I think it's very natural to love people in different ways and to be attracted to people in different ways, and to, you know, so many things can be true at once. You know, you can love your life partner and you can also find someone attractive and want to have a physical connection with them. Right. Now, that's one thing. Another thing is, how are you able to do those things in your relationship? You know, how does the other person feel, and what boundaries are they going to set to play out on your feelings? And one thing that has really normalized these feelings for me is being in a relationship where communication is open, and I think being really transparent about your feelings. And, you know, I'm kind of in, you know, in the marriage that I'm in now, like I feel like it's the first relationship I've had where I'm with someone who's just mature enough to be realistic.
Yeah.
And, you know, saying certain things to me that I'm like, oh my God, like that's really mature
because it's
and
a
wise.
trusted space.
Yes.
I think for me, I'm actually so, you know, like when girls say, oh, I'm chill, and then you're actually not fucking chill.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually so chill in relationships because it's like, to your point, it's gonna ebb and flow. And like some days, like maybe you have a crush on someone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so down to like have a chat and be like, this is how I'm feeling, this is going on. Like, I have been with partners where like their ex has reached out and they've told me like, hey, my ex reached out, it's kind of fucking me up, like I kind of want to meet up with her.
Yeah, or like I want to get closure
Yeah.
and go speak with them and kind of have this emotional connection and this intimacy with someone that isn't you.
I'm a realist and I'm cool with that. I think what for me, I just think the cheating behind the back when you're a partner and you have the open communication and then you choose to like betray that's where for me
that's the no-no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the betrayal.
The done deal.
And I have been the betrayer, like I have cheated.
Yeah.
And when I try and self-analyze why I did those things, it's always because I was with people that I felt being honest and being transparent, I felt like it would be a detriment to the relationship, which means that the relationship wasn't strong enough. And again, I'm not saying I shouldn't have done that. Like, I'm not saying that excuses my cheating. But now, you know, I'm in a place where I don't feel like I'd have to cheat, because I think if someone was something was going on in my mind where I had desires or I had certain questions about, you know, things that were outside of the relationship, I feel in a really safe space to go and discuss those things.
Yeah.
How do you feel that touches more on physical cheating? How do you feel about emotional affairs and emotional cheating?
It's like such a dark one. Like, are we thinking of this like different than like porn? Like,
yeah, we can come back.
Cheating?
Let's come back to porn.
Okay.
But I think emotional affair is, in my head, more of when you have a very close, intimate relationship.
Yeah.
You could call it a friendship, let's say, with someone that you're kind of, you know, talking bad about your partner to.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, they did this thing today.
Yes.
And you're kind of confining that person that is not like your bestie, but someone,
I feel like I have had many situations where a man is like having an emotional affair with me and they've either been married or like in a serious relationship, and I've like been the woman receiving that. And it's so obvious. I think it's really difficult because for me, having been someone whose like life has literally felt like I was going to die from being cheated on so badly with the trust broken, I understand it, and like I want to give it grace, because I think that like it's natural for humans to want to seek emotional support and validation from others at times in their life. But from what I've been through, for me, it's just a hard no.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate because it's like such a realist perspective that is based off of like some very like individual things that happened to me. But I think from what I went through, I just could never, ever, ever imagine like doing that to someone.
Yeah. Having been the person who has been like the person that someone in a marriage is talking to, that has happened to me. And I really loved that person, and they were speaking to me, and they were in a marriage, and I was the outsider, and I knew I was that player, and I didn't really care. I was just happy to be speaking with that person.
Well, it also is like dopamine. Like, it drives like your attention. Like, it feels amazing.
Yes. I was very cognizant that that was the dynamic that I was in. It felt like this person was cheating on their partner with me, even though there was no physical anything. And it felt even more deep and serious than like me just going and hooking up with that person, right? So that experience definitely showed me how emotional affairs can sometimes be more serious and more poignant and more, I mean, just deep over any physical sort of betrayal, right? And I think that experience, I mean, that happened when I was very, very young. I was like 18. But later on in life, I've come to realize, you know, maybe in times where I've had partners that have gone and done that with someone else, you know, whilst I'm in the relationship being like, what the fuck is this? I've realized that maybe it's because something is lacking. And you, as a partner, you can't be someone that is giving your partner everything. You can't be their source
It's impossible.
You can't be their source of good sex, intellectual chat, intellectual chat. You can't be their source of good times. You can't be their source of the best therapist. You can't be their source of everything. So people, I think, you know, going into a relationship should really have clear sort of parameters of what you want your partner to be.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my partner has no social media.
Yeah.
So she cannot be the person
best.
that I am constantly talking to about pop culture
Right.
or talking to about TikTok. I have my friends for that. I decided that it's not important for my relationship or my life to have someone that has the same, you know, social media etiquette as me. I
Yeah.
don't give a shit. Like,
I
that's not...
love that you said that. I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and it was such a light bulb. And it literally just light bulb momented 1 week ago for me, where I have always thought, like, I need everything from this person. And it's like, I want this, like, amazing dick. And, like, I want to, like, emotionally feel, like, really, really safe. But then I also want to, like, shoot the shit, talk about Instagram, cook with you.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
everything.
You can't. And so...
Yeah.
how that relates...
The pressure.
Yeah,
Pressure
and so
cooker.
how that relates to emotional cheating is I think that sometimes I have been in a partnership where they go and they talk to someone about something that I can't offer them. And whilst that's really hard to face, I've realized that, you know, as long as you trust them, why can't they have that dynamic with someone else if I can't offer them that? But I think one thing that could avoid emotional cheating is having, you know, realistic view of what am I providing in this relationship to this person? What are they providing me with? And if it's something, for example, I knew that in my relationship, going into a marriage with someone, they needed to be someone that shares my biggest interest and love in life, which is traveling. Like, I couldn't be with someone that's not going to get on a plane. I needed someone that values family as much as I do, that wants to grow something together, you know, a life together, but is also in my wavelength of, you know, happy to move around, happy to not crave stability, which I don't. Like, they needed to be kind of on my wavelength of those things. On the reverse, I had to, you know, say, okay, maybe that person isn't going to be my source of this, that, and that.
Yeah.
But they, you know, high up in my list is loyalty and, you know, humor and all those things. So I think people need to really have a realistic view of what they're providing and what that person's providing.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe if they are going outside for something else, maybe it's okay. Like, maybe it's not cheating. Like, maybe they're just getting something that they're not receiving in the relationship. But obviously, communication and transparency is everything.
Yeah. I think with the cheats McGee too, with social, it is just a crazy time, unlike other, where it's like men will like 500 girls in bikinis photos. Like, he is hitting every single girl with the heart. And I would just look on Instagram and, like, I know a lot of girls are really bothered by that because they look at it as emotional cheating.
Yes.
For me, I'm like, sweetheart, I feel bad for you that you think that you liking this girl's picture is, like, some connection to her. So for me, I'm unfazed by that. But I do know, like, a lot of women think of that as emotional cheating.
That's such a good topic.
Yeah.
Because in my past relationship with a man, he would do that and I didn't really... I only cared if it was someone that liked him. So I'm like, okay, you liking that girl's bikini pic when I already know she likes you. That dude, come on. Like, that's not going to be helpful for anyone.
No.
But if it's just like, I mean, he would
Like
follow
the
all the
randoms.
hottest models and like
Throwing the flame emoji.
him hearting Sarah Sampaio's picture isn't him cheating on me.
I do not care at all.
No, I don't care. And I think that links us also with pornography.
Yeah.
I couldn't give two shits if any of my partners are watching porn. In fact, I'm like,
let's watch it together.
let's watch it. Like, show me what you're
So
watching. I like sending
I'm
them links.
obsessed with that.
Sending them links. I think so many girls. And again, everyone's different. I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong. I just do think it's so interesting that so many people have
Rules.
such different
like
views. So why do you think that some people view porn as cheating?
For me, how I see it, so I feel very, like, desensitized to porn.
Same.
I'm super comfortable with my body, and, like, I just think, I mean, now I can't really watch porn and get off. I like Reddit porn, and also there's these, like, really
Love
cute
Reddit.
Giphy porns
Love
that are, like,
Reddit.
2 to 3 seconds long, and that I'm like, okay, that's a vibe. But, like, if a man I'm seeing is watching porn, I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, I
me
don't
too.
think, to me, that's, like, creating an emotional connection. Like, I think that it's, like, a way to get off and to be stimulated. Like, sure, would I like my partner to be watching like a hot video that we made together? But it's also just like, to me, it just doesn't matter. This is like basically watching a movie to me. And I don't know if it's desensitized, but it's like, what's the difference of him watching like porn on Pornhub for 3 minutes and jacking off versus watching like some sexy scene in a movie?
Yeah, it's the same.
I don't know. It does not bother me in the slightest.
I think that we are very aligned with that view. For me, I'm also desensitized because I grew up in Brazil, and I mean, there's porn everywhere. There's naked people everywhere. People don't really see it as like any sort of big thing.
Yeah.
I think that maybe people, you know, we might not care because we've just also realized that for us, emotional cheating and emotional affairs and connections are more poignant than a physical thing.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't think it's, you know, that big of a deal because I think for us, we put emotional connection on the pedestal of like what's important in, you know, the connection.
I feel like, and I might just be like in a silo, we've always just watched porn together, or I'd be like, oh, what kind of porn do you watch? Because then it like makes me know like what you're like into, like fantasy wise.
Yeah.
Like I've always used it as like a tool to be like kind of hot. And like I think it's sexy. But I also think I just love women, and I think women are so hot. So to me, it's like, if you're a woman and you're like creating this content, not against your will, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I almost see it more as like art or something.
To kind of detract from porn, from cheating, what do you think of straight women watching female porn?
I mean, that's like the only porn I watch.
I know, it's interesting.
It's hard.
I've kind of watched everything, and like I even like guys on guys, and like obviously like
The guy on guy porn I've never watched. Like I'm gonna go home and watch it
Love it.
today,
Tell me what you think.
so I can know.
Okay, and what about like other types of cheating? So when it's not to do with someone else, what if it's just betraying your partner with knowledge? So for example, financial infidelity. So let's say you just hooked up with a guy, you're dating, you're in a relationship, and, you know, you start blending finances, you start, you know, maybe you move in together, and one of you is just hiding how much money you have or don't have. And, like, I'm trying to think of other
like
forms of cheating that isn't necessarily to do with, like, a connection with someone else.
It's just, to me, it goes back to like the transparency and the need to lie. But at the same time, I mean, I think if my partner has a job and we are joint income and he's using his money in a way that I don't know, like I don't fuck with that.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, I think, you know,
what are your thoughts?
Finance is something that is the number one reason for divorce for a reason. I think it's a very sensitive topic, and I think obviously if you're in a relationship and you start blending finances, I think having transparency around that topic is really important. And I think that sort of betrayal of just not knowing, it doesn't even have to be finance, but just not knowing crucial information about your partner's life is a bit of a red flag.
One thing I was thinking, like when you were saying that, that we haven't talked about with cheating is like sometimes I think when you're with a partner who is cheating and you catch them, it can almost make you have a stronger bond, because when you're with someone who's cheating on you and you hope that you can be enough to change them so they don't cheat again.
Yes.
And I think like that isn't a form of cheating, but it's just like a part of cheating.
Yeah.
That is like really interesting that people do not talk about. So many times I've stayed with someone who's actively cheating on me, and I know, and we talk about it because that I hope that they can change.
Like you want to give them a chance. Like you want to maybe it's so intrinsically biological that we have that maternal thing of we can change that person, we can, you know, like almost like raise them to be who we want them to be.
So many times in relationships, the person being cheated on doesn't talk about how it almost drives their nervous system, and this is like the anxious attachment of like it keeps you longer and longer. and you become desensitized, because then it's like, if it's not physical cheating, then it's emotional cheating, and then it can be financial cheating. And I think it's a spectrum, and it starts to become diluted as to what you even consider to be cheating.
Yeah.
I think when I got out of my relationship that was crazy cheating, my next partner cheated, and I was so like out.
Desensitized.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, is this even a big deal?
Like, you've normalized it.
Normalized it. And then when I got in the car, I was like, wait, I'm never doing this again. And I was like out cold turkey. But it was wild, because when he told me, I didn't show emotion because I didn't feel anything.
Wow. Yeah, so that brings me to ask, I mean, I've read up on some theories as to with the physical cheating, with like someone going out, having sex with other women or men. Why do you think it happens?
I think
if you're sucking his dick for 20 minutes and then he walks out of that door and still goes and has sex with a woman, worker. Like, what's going on, Devon?
So here's the thing, like, I swear I give really good head. I think I've spent so much time thinking about cheating and like really analyzing it. I don't want to like say that like my shit's better than theirs. I think as someone who has never cheated on somebody, and you tell me what your thoughts are, I think that the person doing this, it just comes from insecurity of like wanting more but not even knowing what it is, or like needing validation.
Yeah.
Or like they're bored in their own life and they are looking for like some sort of like thrill. Like, I don't know what it is. I think it's like feeling good and boosting your ego.
I think the thrill, there is a theory that goes back to that, but the thrill aspect for me, that was kind of it. I think I was depleted of dopamine in other areas of my life, and that was a dopamine hit of being risky, doing something you're not supposed to. But it's also a marker of, you know, if you're in the right relationship, if you're supposed to be with that person, you shouldn't be bored. You shouldn't be seeking out these, you know, thrill-seeking behaviors that are wrong and hurtful to the other person. I think for me, it was definitely kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I know I'm not in the relationship I'm supposed to be in, so how can I go and fuck it up and like still get away with it, but like...
Do you feel like you were just feeling self-destructive?
Probably, yeah. And with a hint of boredom also.
Yeah, it's the boredom.
But then, you know, one thing that is really important to know is, I was going to say every time I've done that, but I haven't done it many times, probably once or twice, in relationships I shouldn't have been in, and I felt fucking horrific
you weren't ready
afterwards. Yeah, like I felt horrific. And actually, you know, with me having gone from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship, that should have also been the flag to be single for a bit and actually like experience other people in an ethical, non-cheating way.
Yeah.
But I felt horrific, and, you know, that led me to the point now of, you know, I would never want to hurt my current partner in the way that I've hurt people before.
Yeah.
Whether they knew or not. Like, it doesn't... something still happened whether they know or not, you know?
Well, you've, like, used it to course correct and to also 100%. Be introspective.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I've really had to do the work of, like, why did I do that? What did it mean? You know, is there ever going to be a time in my life again where I'm going to do that again? Because if so, I don't want to. And how can I course correct those behaviors?
For me... because I dated a string of cheaters, when I got out of my last one, I did the same thing, but just like flipped it. And I was introspective and I was like, what is the thread line between all of these men that are so similar that is like drawing me to this type of like characteristic?
Because they're thrill seekers. So it's actually called the Coolidge effect, where these people, like I guess me once upon a time, are thrill seeking and are constantly chasing dopamine. They make more interesting people. Like, for you to go and seek out as well.
Because, like you were saying, I feel like I can be a very bored person. So I am always attracted to, like, a really, really, like, loud type of man that's, like, filling up the room. Or he's super successful. He's super driven. Like, he has a crazy story. Because to me, it's, like, exciting and energetic. And it, like, helps me stay satiated. But their thread line is that they're thrill seekers and they're also bored. Yes. And they don't want to like live the life that I actually genuinely enjoy, which is like being a homebody and just hanging.
Yeah. And I think with time and age and growth and experiences, you know, you do come to a point where two things can be true at once, where I think now I'm in a moment where I realize I'm still that dopamine seeking individual. I like change, I like thrill, I like, you know, I like shiny new things. But I'm now very lucky that I got with someone who's the same. And so we are able to help each other get those things without going outside.
Do you ever feel like you find yourself like going back into those old ways?
No.
Okay.
Since I've been married and since I've been with my wife for 4 years, I have not once ever wanted to stray or have been attracted to anyone. I think also being in a same-sex relationship where we're both bisexual, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about this a lot, where it's like, okay, we're both bisexual. We obviously love the P, the D, the P, the D. You know, what if one day we wake up and you're just like craving it and it's not the same? And that's where I think I'm in such a healthy situation where if we felt that, we just talk about it and see how we can then like figure that out, rather than being like, I'm going to go and fuck some guy and get that D.
So if you guys decided like, okay, we're like missing that like part of our sexuality and we want to do this, like you wouldn't see it as cheating.
Well, I think if we spoke about it and I gave her consent to go and do that, or she gave me consent to go and do that, that's definitely not cheating. I think we're not betraying each other because we spoke about it. What would be cheating is if I went and did that anyway without her consent.
Knowing.
And honestly, it's when we do talk about it, it's so weird and hard for us to talk about it because we haven't felt that yet. So we're like theoretically speaking about something that hasn't happened. And we might be together for life and that might never happen, or it might happen tomorrow. Like, we don't know. But I can safely say that hasn't happened yet. And also, I always talk to people about this. Being bisexual is so interesting because it's obviously a spectrum, right? And I've now come to the point where I understand my bisexuality so well that I've realized I can be in a relationship with a man and crave women more than I crave men in a female relationship.
Wow.
Which is why I need to be in a female relationship, because I'm not going to crave men. Whereas every time I've been with a guy, literally just crave women. But I love them.
We've never talked about that.
Yeah, like
that's so interesting.
I can still be so deeply in love with them.
Yeah.
But still crave being in a female relationship so much. And that was confusing when I was with a man and all I could think about is being in like a lesbian relationship, because I was like, I love this man so fucking much and all I can think about is women. Like, how can these two things be true at once?
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think it's down to communication, and I think it takes a lot of time, effort, work. I mean, like, we've done couples therapy over nothing to do with this, but it takes a lot of growth and experiences to get to the point where you're like, okay, you know what, let's be realistic. You might wake up tomorrow and you might want to do something with someone else. How are we going to go through that? Like, what are we going to do? I think it takes a lot of maturity, and I don't think I've ever gotten to that point until right now.
Well, it's just the uncomfortable situation of talking about it.
To that point of, like, obviously I spoke about me with how I feel, you know, as a cheater in the past as a woman.
Yeah.
I have also read that men, they might cheat and they have more of like an inkling to cheat with other women because they have a literal evolutionary trait.
Yes.
Which was proposed by Richard Dawkins that is called the selfish gene. That men,
knowledge.
Science.
Educated.
Okay, so there is like, I don't think they've proven it, but it has been proposed that there is this gene where they like, and they're not aware of this, obviously, they're not conscious of it, but evolutionary, men are more likely to want to go and spread their seeds and, like, you know, procreate.
Right.
And men can obviously do that with much ease. Like, they can go and have hundreds and hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
So they don't even know that they're aware that their gene deep inside is like telling them to go and spread their sperm and like procreate and stuff. I think it's so interesting.
I think we need to have a man here who has cheated to like speak to his experiences, but I feel like they're too scared to share.
No, I think we can find a bloke who will be open about why they cheated.
I'll go to my Rolodex.
Yes, everyone, stay tuned for Why Do We Cheat Part 2 with a man. We can only, help on the female viewpoint of things.
It's so fucking crazy.
With the advent of social media.
Yes.
We kind of touched a little bit on liking girls' Instagram posts. Do you think that there's any other ways in which, and we kind of spoke about pornography, do you think that, you know, digital cheating, like, are there any other ways that someone can be cheating that's like, you know, on their phones or?
I mean, one thing I think that I've seen and that I hear about is just like when you're newly seeing someone and then they're like on Hinge or they're on Raya.
Oh, like,
and you're like dating them and then the notifications are popping up and you're at dinner. And you're just like, why is your Hinge notification popping up? Like, to me, that's cheating.
yes.
And like, unpopular opinion, but like if we're going on dates and we're hanging out and you're on your Raya and you're still swiping, to me it just shows that you're not serious and you don't think that I'm enough. So when I have had girlfriends tell me that, I'm a little bit ruthless and I'm like, get the fuck out. Yeah. And the counter to that is like, well, they don't know yet. Like, they're keeping their options open. But I think that the mindlessness of the scrolling of Raya and Hinge, to me, is cheating. And I think so many people would disagree. Like, hit me in the comments. Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
But I don't like it. Like, I think it's shady.
It's not great. It's not great. So to that point, and you've kind of shared your experiences on being cheated on, I don't know if I've been cheated on or not. Like,
Oh my God. Good for you, you bitch.
Like, I'm just going to put this out there. Like, if any of my exes are watching this, can you low-key just be honest?
Yeah,
Have
be
you
honest.
cheated on me? I'm expecting
Humble her.
4 messages on my inbox. 4, like, just tell me. Like, I want to use this as a case study.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. There has been times, though, where I have, back to the digital thing.
Yeah.
There has been times where I've definitely seen messages from girls. And I can't prove whether they've gone and done stuff, but like girls that liked them.
Did you go through the phone to see those? Or
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, were they like
That can
pop
also
up
be, like,
notifications?
another episode on etiquette.
I have a crazy phone story. It's psycho.
Okay, wait, you tell your story on this episode.
No, it just was like when I knew that my ex was cheating, I had asked him straight to his face, like, are you cheating? Because it was like after like 20 times.
Can I just say, I hate this ex. Like, I know this ex.
Rat. Garbaggio man.
Okay.
And he was sleeping and I'd never gone through a phone. And I was just like, I gotta do it. And I had like had this like on a pedestal, like I'll never go through a phone, like all this shit. So I went through his phone. It was like 50 women. He's cash apping them. It is like crazy.
That's insane.
And I screenshot them all.
Not the cash
sent
app.
them. Yeah, the cash app. I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about in those rap songs I listened to. But it was like, I was like looking at the cash apps and screenshotting them all to myself and then like deleting them from his phone so he wouldn't see I had screenshot. And like when I left and I got out of that relationship, if it wasn't for the physical proof on the phone, I think I would have stayed.
Because you've been gaslit to think that you're like, he's not cheating.
But because of like the phone and like the DMs and the Instagram and like this like digital aspect, it actually was like my get out of jail card where I could like ripcord because it was like physical evidence versus verbal. Sorry to like interject on your story, like talking about like girls DMing you. But I think like so often we can be gaslit to believe like, oh, well, she just DM'd me. She's weird. She's obsessed. Or vice versa. Like, he's obsessed.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know if I've been cheated on, but in the past, I've seen messages of people that liked my partner. And that's where I was like, this is inappropriate because you might not be aware, but they like you. And if this was to continue, I feel disrespected. So that's kind of my experience with it. But back to your crazy story. How do you then move on? Like, how do you then break up? How do you find healing and
with the cheating?
Yeah,
like healing post cheating.
Because look, let's be transparent.
Yeah,
you are seriously like still next time you're in a relationship, I still think you're going to have trust issues. Like, you're going to be affected.
I will always be affected, and I'm really open when I'm dating someone. I say, like, hey, this is like, I don't like spill the tea, but I'm just like, I have this experience, so this is what I'm bringing to the table. I think for anyone that has ever gone through this, you literally feel like shit and you always think like, is there something I could have done different? And like I became like hyper fixated on the girls that he was cheating on me with, and I'd be like, should I be blonde? Like, should I be X, Y, or Z? And I think it like the first step is like you're gonna feel like shit, and I had like crazy like body and like eating issues because I was like, well, maybe if I could shrink myself to look like the person that he was doing this with, it wouldn't have happened. I think that's a common narrative, and most people don't want to admit that because it's embarrassing. But I think how I healed post was I got a really good therapist. I surrounded myself with like really wonderful friends like you. And like there's a few really key people in my life that I trusted to be really open and honest with how I was feeling, because like you feel like really low.
And ultimately, it's never you. Like, I think if anyone could take away anything from this talk is like, it's not you. Beyonce got cheated on.
Oh, literally.
Like, it's never you. It's never something you've done. It's something that they need to work through that they're lacking, but it's not your problem. Like, it's not... There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You know?
And like my nervous system just eventually reset, and it took time.
But I think, you know, going forward, there are, even me, like there's trust issues that I have from previous relationships that go, you know, it goes into your next relationship. So you have to really address it and work on it.
Yeah, it like affects your psyche. I was just reading like about your nervous system, and something my therapist had kind of shared with me is like if you take a scan of your brain post cheating, like the chemicals will look different than when you take a scan of your brain when your nervous system's
like
reset.
It actually physiologically affects you. Yeah.
And it's because like your stress levels and your cortisol, like everything is related, and it like puts your body into basically like a fight or flight.
Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap this here. I think this is a really interesting topic, and we're not experts, obviously.
Yeah.
We're just talking from our own experiences with this. But to end this, let's do our little tradition of asking each other a question. My question for you about cheating is, obviously you've gone through these experiences where men have cheated, you knew about it and you stayed. If you thought let's say you're in a next relationship and you thought he was the one, like you're like, this person is perfect, 10 out of 10, he's the one, but he went and he cheated on you, and it might have been, you know, not the deepest thing on earth, but he did cheat. What would you do? Would you stay?
I would put on my running shoes and get out the door in 1 second.
Yeah.
I've thought about it a lot, and I would never do it again. And I think a lot of girls will say that and they're lying to themselves, but I'm actually at a place in my life right now where I have no interest, and it is physically disgusting to me. Like, I feel so grossed out, I would just walk away.
Yeah, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Yeah.
Is that your takeaway?
It is.
Okay,
my question for you, having been someone who has cheated, do you think that you would ever cheat again?
I mean, look, not with this current partner. Like, not with the marriage I'm in now, no. But again, if for whatever reason there was someone else after that, which I fucking hope not.
Yeah.
And I just, like, I know. Because I just wouldn't want to cause that hurt on someone else. And I think now I'm equipped with the tools to recognize the inner feelings and emotions and behaviors that lead to that outcome.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. But you know what? Obviously I do regret hurting people I've hurt, but like having those feelings and experiences led me to like the kind of growth and, you know, pretty secure state of being I am now with my relationships. So, you know, as much as I wouldn't have wanted to hurt anyone, and I regret that, I do think those experiences and those actions that I did might have shaped who I am now.
Great
I feel so attacked.
You look so beautiful, by the way.
You.
I've been staring at you. It's so nice.
Thank you. You wouldn't cheat on me.
I wouldn't.
Okay, big questions, small talks, episode 2. Goodbye.